away from him, but he just never stops loving us. And God is wanting to know if we can be that person. And of course, it would be first to, if you're married, to your spouse, to your children. Sometimes there's the hardest people in our life sometimes to do that. That should be the easiest, right? Shouldn't it be the easiest to do that with your spouse? Not when there's problems and trials and hard things. Not when you're unresolved about a lot of things. It's so easy to feel like you are feeling hypocritical. But see, who we are in God is his love is in us. God is in us and he is love, and that's in us. So then we would need to have attributes, right? That comes out of our heart and our lives and how we live to each other. There would be our fruit, right? Our fruit is going to be known of who we are. It says, how will you know those disciples? You will know them by what? The fruit, and by his love, right? His love, which then those were the fruit. The fruit of love is what? Goodness and kindness, love and joy, peace, long suffering. We like long suffering, like, I'm going to stick with you, God. I'm going to stay with you. We need that for sure. But long suffering with each other. I mean, how many people would you like to just toss out the door? And maybe you haven't. I'm not talking about God pruning you. Sometimes there's times of pruning, and there's people being taken out of our way. We're going to different places. We're like, what is happening? I'm not talking about that, because God will want us to be pruned. But I'm talking about people that God is wanting us to stay with and be, especially, in our marriages with our children. I mean, we can easily feel like wanting to be giving up. And I'm not even saying there aren't some times that we need to shift or change. We need help in this world. There's a lot of help that we need, and we have to be coming to God, really saying, God, how can I live? How do I function? How can I work out in this life? Because I'm just saying this. If you're a person who's always looking for somebody to validate you, you're going to be disappointed all the time. And so that's why when we know, God, you love me first. You love me perfect. You are, make me whole and complete. And when we have and know that, I mean, for me, marriage is something that I'm like going, it should be a bonus. It should be something that would be added onto my love with God. And so when we have that with God, when we're really flowing and functioning with his love and his power, then I'm not looking to anybody to fulfill me. Is that true? Is that something you can say? Like, I know some of you are single, some of you are in different places, and all kinds of things that you have gone through, and I don't ever want to take away from that. But at the same time, it's just like God takes two people that are so different, and then he wants you to love that person, but he wants you to love it sacrificially, because it's not the kind of love you want. Jerry and me are in total different pages in how we respond, how we react, what we love, what we like. The things that motivate me don't motivate him ever. And I was like, why is that? But because we're not, you should be best friends and love your spouse, but we're not just best friends. We're people that have to kind of grow. And it's like God said that we are to be a living sacrifice. What is it? What does that mean? That is holy and acceptable to God, to be a living sacrifice. So if you were laying here on the ground and you were dead, if someone spit on you, if someone kicked you, if someone hurt you, what would what would that dead person do? It couldn't do anything because it's dead. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that you live in abuse. Please don't misunderstand me. But when we're going through some things, as I've been really lately brought up a little triggers from some things that have been happening around me. And I thought, man, I've been doing good with triggers. I don't really have that many. And I try to, until, when somebody's not like in your life and they're gone, you're kind of like, yeah, like I'm really good at this until some things are back in your life. And then there's like little triggers. And I think that we have to be a people that are like, when we are patient, right? Because love is what? It's patience, one of the number one things about it. So when we're patient, we can back away. And we're going, I'm not perfect, but I want to be a straight line to this mess and this hard stuff. And I have to remind sometimes people around me, like, hey, we're not the perfect people always doing right, but we want to stay right with God. So let's just back up, because we will get into these crazy fights. I mean, think about what's happening downtown, right? The teen things, the teen takeovers, they're just starting fights. They're going crazy, right? And then the person they're talking to are crazier than them. And then they're fighting. And then more people, who are these people jumping in these fights? Why? You know? And then you think of this person that I think it was a year ago. There were two twins. They were playing football, and then there was this other guy that came along. Wasn't a part of it. He went into a tent, and they started fighting. You guys know about the story? And they started fighting, and the one guy pushed the other guy. Where the other guy came back with a knife, stabbing him in the heart. And right now they're trying. There's a big riot saying if he, if they charge him or put him in jail or even give him a long sentence. Yeah, he got 35 years, which probably even isn't enough. I mean, they even showed the people had to look at the heart, and the one journalist said that this lady went, because they got to see it. Because the family probably wanted to see it because they wanted to say, "Oh, I didn't mean to kill him. It was self-defense." No, two kids, if someone pushes you, that's not okay. But you're not allowed to rip out their heart. You're not allowed to kill them, you know. And so I don't like that. I'm sad about the whole thing, right? But at the same time, people are fighting for what they think is justice, but it's not injustice. God says we are to rejoice over justice, not injustice. Don't rejoice over injustice. And so people are angry and freaking out. I mean, they look like they're going crazy because of the righteous judgment that probably should have been longer. Because they even said he could probably pull his strings and get out in a half a year. I'm just, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, not half his time. And I thought, wow. And even then, that's kind of crazy, But overall, I'm sure that usually ruins a person. I mean, I'll pray for everyone. It's horrible. But I was thinking about everything that's going on around us with the ministry. We all know, we all have watched all the big different ministers all over falling and going down. One of the latest is Joni Lamb. I'm not here when judging it all, but I had told Jerry a while back, nobody knew what she was sick of or anything. And Jerry don't know her that well, but I said, she has cancer. I see it on her face. She looks just like when your mom was dying. And um, I guess God just told me that, and they're finding out now that she did have cancer. But I was just like, I'm not saying God put that on her, but what is going on with that? She was totally fine. She's 65. She's good health. She has all tons of money and tons of things that she probably can keep up on herself, right? Yeah, the resources. And here she dies like that quick. It seemed like within a year that she looked different. And I'm not saying it's not like a God judgment, but it is something that's very deceitful there. So many deceitful things that come out. I don't know everything. I'm not trying to judge it, but I know from what God has kind of shown me. And it makes me so sad because everyone in there, the family are saying she lived such a life to want to please, help people, serve people, bring people to the Lord. I'm saying that's probably true, huh? No, Joni Lamb. She's Marcus and Joni Lamb. They own Daystar. Yeah, TV station. But then you just think about TD Jakes. I mean, there is some crazy stuff behind there. I'm thinking, really honestly, I remember hearing his story when he was really young, and it just made me cry a little. He wore suits that pressed him and pressed him till it was just shiny from pressing him so much. Super poor, and I do believe they're such a great call. They called him the pastor of America. Here he had, you know, a seizure on stage and a heart attack, and he had to give his church to his daughter and son-in-law. And I'm just going, there's something just crazy about all this stuff. We got to be a people that God can mark us. We are His. And how will He mark us that we are His? It's because we are serving Him and living like He wants. It's crazy because you guys might have the same thing, but there's always certain people that kind of come in my circle and they leave. They come back in my circle and they leave. And there's different people that follow that with a certain Jezebel spirit. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you always say that. Well, they follow the prophets, right? But they really want to come in and wreak havoc, and they want to have their own way, and they tell us what we should spend our money on and what we're not good, how we're not doing right. And they really twist things and make us look like we're just evil almost. And we're like, I was like, how are we in our family someone who serves God? has lived in faith for many years. I'm not saying we could have done things better or smarter, maybe not harder. I mean, there's things, right? But overall, how is this always come back that we're just these people that are stupid or don't know how to live our life or don't know how to do money? And I'm going, I think we do money pretty awesomely because we don't bounce no checks. We don't have no NSF charges. I mean, I try not to get tickets. I talk my way out of them sometimes, but overall, do you know what I mean? We're trying to live an upright life, a life that's good. I want to drive 100. I want to do, but you're trying to live a life that's like, I want to live on, especially I got a Dream City Church sticker on my car. Thank you, Sam. And it's always like, oh man, they're going to be like, that church is horrible. But even some people come behind you, you're like, even if you go slow, they're beeping. They're so angry at you. Or they're just like, sometimes I put my makeup probably going too slow and they're like, okay. I'm like, oh no. It is about God, but it's also about the church. So like, right. No, and especially today, right? It's some crazy stuff happening. And I was just thinking about everything in life. If we don't come back to what, like Jerry was saying not too long ago, that we serve this community, we give unto this. What are your three things that you were saying? Can you say real quick? Prayer, worship, and good works. And I thought that's so simple, but I thought that's really true because how do we overcome evil? With good, with kindness. That seems too simple. But if we stay in God's goodness, in His glory, in what He wants, we're going to be okay. We're going to keep going over because the enemy wants to make things so hard and you can't do it. You can't make it if we're not comparative to anyone else because there's a lot of stuff in the church realm. If you're in it, you know. If you're not, you would know, but maybe not really because the pressure you feel sometimes on your heart. Oh, it's not this church, something's going on, or it's not growing fast enough. What's going on? Or you have these issues with the witches and all that. And then you don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on God. And sometimes you're like, you know how it is. You get attacked. Why are you attacked more on Wednesdays and Sundays than any other day? I'll go through something and it feels like I can't overcome, and it's the worst, craziest thing ever. And then I come Monday, I'm like, that didn't even happen. Well, it's insane. It's stupid, and I'm going, why? I get it. I get it every week. But there's someone coming against you, or there's something happening, or financial issues, and it's like the devil doesn't want you to do what you're called to do. And you have to be like stand firm and strong. Nothing will stop me. Like Paul said, nothing will move me. Nothing. And we need to do that in our marriages. We need to do that in our life. Like if building this church, when we started back in 295 many years ago in 1999, I was ordained. And I had negative, I mean, just being vulnerable. And I had a negative Major had negative $700 in our bank. And I remember going there going, what? And I looked at it and I was like, I'm a failure. How can I start a church like this? This is horrible. I mean, God always gets us out of those things. And that's when, also I had to adjust things. Because you ever get credits on your bank? Like, oh, you can go over 800. That's don't ever do it because you'll do it and then you got to pay that back and you're always in the rears. Some of these, then I kind of took it away. It was a blessing for me because I'll use that 800. I always need extra $800 or whatever. It's not a paycheck. You got to pay this thing back. We know that. Yeah, right. And so I just think like there's so many things that are going on in our life. And when I think Tommy mentioned it tonight about identity, like how we have to keep that before us every day. Because the enemy's there, the flesh is there every day, and then you get some little critters coming and telling you too what you're not, what you yeah, they're kind of critters, right? Telling you what you're not, how you're not living right, how you're not doing right, or whatever. And then I was just like, I felt my heart kind of sinking and sinking. I was like, no, this is not the frequency of heaven. This is not what God has said about me. This is not, and do you know what I'm talking about? I don't like to use the word vibe. I know that seems like new agey, but it's so much higher for sure. But it's when you come into a place and there's dreariness and heaviness, and Jerry felt the same thing. And I'm like going, it's because of some of the people, we're around and we love them, but we're like, you got to come up higher, and we got to stay up higher. And if you're being around people that's like that all the time, sometimes it is your spouse. If they're hurting or something going on, you got to work that through. And then there's some things, because you can't divorce over a bad vibe or a bad frequency. But it's the same thing as I want to live in my life, my heart, my mind, every day in a place where, am I glorifying you, God? Am I in love with you? I've been asking God so much for a long time now, just to restore my heart with the hurts and the pains that have gone on. Because you live this life for the Lord, you will be attacked. You will go through hard things. But it's those who continue to get up, those who will continue to go forward, those who are saying, God, I'm yours. I want to be marked. I want to be marked by you. I want you to say, well done and good and faithful servant at some point. And even then, it's like, it's so crazy how many people don't do nothing and cut you down for everything you do. And I'm going, I already feel that way. Thank you very much. But at the same time, what do you feel, God? How do you think? And everything in his word says opposite what my own mind says or what you say. So I'm like, I don't want to follow my own flesh. I'm definitely not following yours, because it's not leading you to a right place, right? And so that's what we need to really understand every single day, that we put. I'm serious. I think you all probably do this, but if you don't forget to put on the armor. Don't forget to plead the blood of Jesus. I was just do that with the kids every single day. And they do it. They do it for school now. It's from even my kids when they were littler, and all my my not my grandkids, but my nieces and nephews. They just learn that so well, and it's like so important that we're heading out the door or getting out of bed, because we need it for our own mind, right? That we're putting on that helmet that's protecting us from inside and out. Like Paul said, I have fears without, I have fears within, and I have like grieving, despair without. I have a despair inside that I'm fighting, and then there's the battles on the outside, and the helmet of salvation protects us from it all. And so we have to get it before we get out of track, before we get off track, before we get out of what God was saying. And it is a diligent thing. God's called us to be diligent. He gave us the gift of that and the fruit of the Spirit, right? He gave us that gift to just keep going. I'm gonna come back to this, because there's a lot to say on this love. But can I share something to you? Some of you know this person, Miles Monroe. I just said this to Jerry. And I've just been studying a little bit on this, and but he talks a lot about purpose. If you want to follow him, he passed away. His plane went down. He and his wife died. Does anyone else? Did he have kids too that died in the plane 5 years ago, maybe? But anyway, well, I guess a long time ago. But he was such a neat guy. But he said, "Design determines destiny." I would like to say I wrote this, but I didn't. Structure determines success. Order determines outcome. God does not respond to desire, he responds to decision. Decisions create structure. Structures create habits. Habits create character. Character creates destiny. Success is never an accident. Failure is never a mystery. Though they they're both a product of structure. If you structure your mind, you'll become wise. If you order your emotions, you'll become stable. If you structure your habits, you'll become consistent. If you structure your discipline, you'll become unstoppable. If you structure your priorities, you'll become effective. And that's why it says, like in Ephesians 5:16, I think, that we need to walk circumspectly because the days are evil. We got to redeem the days because they're evil. And we got to walk circumspectly. God has called us to be a people that I'm not talking about always just fighting the devil, because we need to rejoice. We can have fun and get the devil off things, because we went out of town the other day, and there was a group of people I love, but sometimes there can be issues. And so I was just binding up the devil. I command the weather to stay nice. It was supposed to rain. It was a perfect, beautiful day. And everyone's like, we want to stay overnight. We want to stay here all day. And because the glory of God was on it. And I was just thinking, you have different things you have to go to. There's different, places you go to that you are still, because you love your family, you want to see them or whatever. You bind up those demons, you bind up those spirits, and you command glory. And where you go, peace is going to go, if they realize it or not, because I guarantee that probably don't realize that. But see, I know I know what I carry. And I know if I'm in a negative, bad mood, I'm carrying something bad, and I can't do that. And we have to help each other. We have to not be a people that are full of hypocrisy, that is full of like, because one thing that isn't hypocrisy is that you care about other people and you do things for them. You go out of your way, you sacrifice. And that's what one part of the church is about, because we're like, I'm going to do just for me and my four, and that's all I want to care about, me and my little family. But when we care about what God cares about, and even then saying, God, what do you care about? We know a lot of things in what his word says. The poor, he cares about them. He cares about, you know, those who are sick and healing the sick. And he told us that, yeah, all that, the broken heart, to cast out demons. These are things. So every day we need to be a people. Hey, I'm yours, God. What do you have in store for me today? So even if we go out, wherever we go, we are always a witness, right? For God, we're always being a witness to him. I'm going to go back into the love stuff. I told Jerry we better sometimes, the scripture here, sometimes that has beat us up, and people are like, you're not really there. You're not doing that. And because sometimes people have gotten mad, and it's sometimes probably true. Some things maybe not. And they just don't want to be told what, they don't want to. We're not here to tell people what to do. We're trying to help people, right? And you need discernment. You need accountability. You need to have someone that you can have some type of accountability with, right? And so if they don't want that and they get mad at that, I can't do anything about that. But there are things, some people think that I'm a person that I'm not really, I don't ever think I'm wrong. I go to God all the time. Now, if I stand before someone who's proud and rude, I'm not going to sit there and talk to them about that, right? I'm not going to share my heart or throw my pearls out to someone. But at the same time, when someone's proud or rude, I don't want to discuss my faults with them. But it doesn't mean that we don't have flaws and faults and things that we need to live humbly by. And it's just a hard thing that we're in today, of people who want to do their own thing, their own self-willed, right? That we're full of, it's called selfish ambition, right? And so whatever we're doing, we want to say, God, give me all your heart for where I'm at. That if I'm here with this amount of group, or if I've ministered in front of hundreds of people, that's kind of fun, because you don't always, there's things you can say that is different. But I feel like the small group is awesome, because there's more, there's something intimate about it, right? That where people they're gonna learn and want to go and grow. And we know sometimes everyone probably comes in here, you don't want to be here, and that you're having a hard time to get here, or whatever it may be, and the devil wants to make sure you have that, so we can be a people. Because how many of you ever picked up your hands and felt like a hypocrite? I have, you know. And I mean, yeah, you're a worship leader. You're never allowed to do that. No, but there are some times we will feel that. But we have to say, God, thank you that your love is unconditional today. And I want that love. And I want to portray that. And I want to give that. And thank you that you forgive me. Thank you that you love me. And we need that. If we don't have that in our marriage, we are done. We're done, because we have to have that every day. It does seem kind of crazy that God said 490 times a day we'd have to forgive someone. I'm like, nobody is that sorry. Nobody sins that much. But I know it's an idiom, right? It's something God is saying. You just continue to forgive, and you keep blessing, you keep loving. And it's hard, because there's some things that may never really change in some things. Because like if you're with two people, one person will always think a certain way, and someone else will think it's another certain way. And what do you do with that? If it's not like, well, that's wrong. Well, you're wrong. Well, you're wrong. Then we'll go through that forever till Jesus comes back. Because there's some things of personal preference of how we live and how we want to live our life before God. And me, every day, when Jerry, especially, outside of ministry, was working a different job, I mean, I can always have said, I had kids, of course, I still have my grandkids, but what do you want me to do today? Obviously, when Jared had to go to work, he did it there, though. That's why he tells everyone, if you're working, that's your job, that's your ministry unto the Lord. Your kids and spouses first. If we keep that right, we can't really lose. But man, the enemy fights so hard against couples and people. It's never ending. And it's like we have to overcome that and saying, God, give me a fresh love. Give me, I just pray for someone. And when I was praying, you ever have an earache and you have a warm oil go down your ear? You know that feel? It feels kind of good, that warm oil there. But that's how it felt from here to my stomach. And I said, this is like a liquid love. And I'm asking God to do that tonight for everyone. If you're in your marriages, in your own life, your life with God, because some of us are just like, I love God, but I just don't, you're just tired. You're just having a hard time with things. But let's just stay in that place of just, God, I want unconditional love. But that's a lot of pride has to come down if we want to do that, because we want right to be right too much. I like to be right. I am right most of the time. She's like, right, but that's just funny. But we want to always be right for sure. But do you want to win a battle or do you want to stay in love? But at the same time, though, then when you walk away, are you going to be resentful? Are you going to be angry? Are you going to be upset? Or are you going to say, I'm giving this up. God, I'm going to give this first to you. Do you know how many things that I've ever prayed? And if I fight with Jared, we'll fight till Jesus comes back. But now this is a part of order that some of you might not realize the way I am. And I'm not saying I've done this perfectly, but there's a time when Jerry's like, this is what I think. Jerry, I feel like in a marriage, it says first submit one to another. Then it says wife submit to their husband. Not all men, I'm not saying y'all are misogynistic, but some are saying that means, well, wife submit to their husband. Hey, dummy, if you are that person, I can call you dummy, because before that it says we are to submit one to another. If we're submitting one to another, hupomino, coming back under, helping each other. That's really all it means. And I think people have made it very religious and very misogynistic. But if we're really helping each other, where can we go, right? In that. How awesome can God, what God wants to do is first in our marriages. If you're not married, that's fine. He can do it just with you. That's why Paul said, if you're not married, be, if you can, stay that way for a while, because I get to have you all to myself, and you can do anything I want. You don't have these other kind of restrictions. But when you have that, if we are people that are really, just serving God and working with Him, and really working on that first, there, I don't know. I'm looking around. I'm not talking about just here, but I have seen so many young married people, and my heart breaks. And I'm just broken, because there's a lot of brokenness, and there's things that goes on to their children. Then their children then that goes on to their children. And I'm not saying we don't have issues and we don't have to work them out. I'm not talking about that, but some things, man, that's really rough. And I thought, man, these are hard because the devil makes it hard, but it's simple by humbling ourselves. When we get on our knees, there's not many people that will go to God and God will say, He'll say something in your ear. He'll tell you to love. He'll tell you to stay. He'll tell you to work it out. He'll tell you to shut your mouth. Has God ever told you to do that? It's a beautiful thing, because whenever God spanks you, it's a loving thing, and He does it so gentle, not like we do it, right? Jerry cannot tell me to shut my mouth, but God can, because we will fight. We'll literally punch it. No, He don't say that. He knows better, right? But but God can tell me shut my mouth anytime He wants, but He doesn't even talk to me that way. God never talks to me that way, but He has spanked me many a times, and I like it, because I know He cares and He knows. And if you love Him and He loves you, He said He will discipline us. So He wants to discipline us in our lives. But there's so many times that I would ask God, this is the man you gave me. Not sure why, but you deal with him. You deal with him. I mean, this quick. Not all the time, but this quick. Because people, like, okay, for instance, we went, me and Jerry were going to leave for Port Clinton the other day to go to Put in Bay. And some phones were coming. Was it that day? We were leaving, no matter what. We were leaving, and I said, "Lord, please have that guy come, because I don't want phones sitting in this heat, and someone will take them." There were two phones, iPhones. I said, please, I don't know who this guy is, but go talk to him, God, have him come here first. And it was kind of, we are getting ready to leave, and I'm like, really, Lord? I mean, you always, but someone has to listen too, right? Well, anyway, we pull out of the driveway, and I was like, this doesn't happen to me. And I'm not saying God's not, he's my boss, I'm not his, but God just always answers these prayers. And I drove around, and there was a UPS, and Jerry goes, "Is it UPS?" I go, "I bet it is. Let's go back." So we went back, and he came out, and he goes, "Oh, I saw you turned around." I go, "You hear from God, don't you?" He goes, "Yes, I do, ma'am." And I go, "Well," he goes, "I was supposed to go somewhere else, and I came here first." And I go, "See, you hear God, you listen to God." And I thought, that's so awesome. And I'm thinking, if we can talk about a UPS guy like that, how much will it help if we're praying for our spouse every single day? Because I'm sure Jerry, he hasn't told me. You need to tell me something. They're kind of cool. And there's things that we will fight about that he'll say, "This woman you gave me, you need to deal with her. You need to talk to her." And not in wanting to kill each other or abuse each other, but God, help us. Show us how to live and work out. Wisdom is first with us, with God. He said he give us, one word for wisdom is our life. It's a girl's name. Starts with an S. Sophia. It's a word for wisdom, and it's wisdom with God and with man. And so when we first are saying, "God, I need wisdom with my family, with my husband, with my children, with my grandkids," and I think, like, when we really do that, what a different life that will be than we just being, we're like saying stuff we shouldn't say, getting in trouble that we shouldn't get into, getting into stuff we shouldn't buy, buying things we shouldn't buy, going places we shouldn't go. I mean, when we're just really asking God that, what, for the hope, for hope in the future, give me vision for that. But how about for today and this next week, or we want to go on a vacation? Do you mind? Can you, because God will help you to avoid um tornadoes. He'll help you avoid bad weather, because we were trying to figure out a day to go. And I said, I think, we should go Monday. It was going to rain. I said, we're just going to pray that away. And it was perfect. The whole day was so fun and perfect. And I thought, one day me and Jer were having a hard time at church, and we used a credit card, remember, Jer? And we went out to Myrtle Beach. We shouldn't have done that. And we were kind of just running away from God, like the church thing a little, I know how some of y'all feel when you do that, because I've done it too. So I'm not very condemning, but we need people. We need everyone to be on fire and doing what God wants, but we understand the hardships. So we went out there, and there was a tornado. And we had, after, was it 2 days? A hurricane. It was it 2 days, babe? We were there like 2 days. We were going to be there like 5. We had to get up and get out of there. And driving home, I was like, this something's weird about this, right? And of course, I knew we probably shouldn't have done that. I get home, and I don't always listen to, especially today. I don't listen to a lot of people on the Christian television stuff. Some of that's rough, but this time, it was many years ago. And I felt like God said to turn it on. It was TBN. I turned it on, and there was Jensen Franklin, who I do really love him. He's actually spoke to me many times through the TV prophetically, and I didn't know if it was just me or many people, but this time it was. And he goes, you know, well, and also one time, well, this time he said, when you are out of God's will, God could send a hurricane. And I was just like, what? And he said something about when I was praying about moving, because I could have made tons of money. And I thought, oh, take that money and we'll still have a church too. But I don't know that I would do that. I might just make tons of money. I don't know. Only God knows, right? And I was praying. And he goes, and you, pastor? Because not everyone called me pastor. Not many people would do it. But he goes, you, pastor? You never move for money. You never move for. And I was like, I stopped that right there. I never thought about it again. And there was other people who wanted Jerry to go work in different places, a lot of money. And I'm like, we can go out there because someone paid for us to go out there. It was a fun trip. And I go, we're not going to do it, because God said, we're not going to go for money. So I understand you, Jody, with some of those things about all the money stuff. God cares about us in our obedience with him, right? Let me go back in a few more scriptures. In 1 John 4, 8 and 16 says, 8 through 16, anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. The one who does not love does not know God. I'm giving you different translations. This is you're like, why you keep saying this? That was supposed to go to the scripture, but that's the scripture. I guess it's also 16. So let me go to 16. I thought it was going through many. That's hilarious. I'm going to go to a different one. 1 second, guys. Eek. Sorry. This is getting messed up. Yeah, I can't get back to it. That's okay. But I just really want to pray and think about all the things that we can say in the scripture that you all know. You all know, you might have it written on your wall. We got this for when we first got married. It's that little, it was a pastel, or what is that mauve color? It was a mauve color with little squares in it. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not rude, and never takes account of wrong. And the one thing that I was thinking about, it says it's not irritated. And I was like, wow, I know this so well, but it really has been hitting my heart lately. And I was like, when I get irritated, I'm not in love. And we all know that, right? But I thought, why is that a big thing? Why do I get irritated? Because irritated is something not working out the way you want. And we can't always be in control of everything. So when we're irritated, we have to. What if this is something, honestly, here? What if this is something every single person here, of course, myself at the top of it, of looking every day, am I in love? If you're rude, you're not in love. If you're not patient, you're not in love. If you're, there's sometimes some people just be snarky and snotty, and like, you can't do anything about them, but you can do something about your response. So if you're angry all the time or irritated all the time or whatever, I get it. There's triggers and things can happen. But overall, that's your response to what somebody else says or does. Why are they so high in your life? Why is that thing or person or whatever something you give so much attention to? And so we have to realize, like I look at the little kids, all my little grandkids, and they're crazy fighting and pushing and shoving and putting sword, like hitting each other with swords, and I'm like going, it's just like this is ridiculous, and I'm going, this is not much different than people today, adults today. And it might not be with like play swords that you're hitting someone on the head or whatever, but it's just like we're angry, we're sad, we're offended. So many people offended. If we're offended, we're not in love. And I don't talk to anyone here about this because I'm just saying in general what is happening or what can happen. Because we can be offended with people at church, we can be offended with ourselves, we can be offended with God, we can be offended, of course, with our spouse. But at the same time, that's not something of love. And God said, or the Lord said, right, that offense will come. And what we do with that, there's something that we're going to have to do with that. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to handle it? Are we going to first pray and seek the Lord? And he'll say, okay, you're too sensitive here. Stop. He'll say, go talk. He'll say, pray for them first. And maybe you'll never have to deal with it. But a lot of times when we don't, something goes back down under, and then we start building up something. And that a big explosion, it wasn't because the coffee maker you didn't have coffee that day. If it's with your spouse or with someone else, it's not some little thing they did, right? It wasn't that thing. And my daughter Chloe would always say that to me. She'll go, Mom, this is not, like, if she knows something going on with me and Jerry and stuff, she goes, it's not about the laundry not being, that's stupid. It's about so many layers of things. And I'm like, this is true. So what do we do with all the layers? We have to walk through them. We sometimes have to talk through them. Sometimes we have to really say, look, this bothers me so bad. But see, me and Jared, we were good at kind of going, we're not going to talk about these because we end up fighting and it's so stupid and we go too far. So you get that far. How do you ever? We have to first get before God and saying, what are the things? And we got to pick our battles. So some of this stuff is dumb, right? I'm talking about in general, all the stuff we go through. What do you want? Like, Are we a people full of irritation and anger and frustration? Is that living the way God wants us to live? That's not love with that's not love without hypocrisy. That's love with hypocrisy. Because I'm living in a life that that's not what God created for me. So it's a lower life. It's not on his level and what he wants for us. And so if we start to say, I mean, I get, there'll be certain things here or there. I had all the kids. I was a little frustrated. I can spill it right now. Jerry was kind of busy, but he was doing work, so I was glad for that. So at first, I want to go. Really, can you help me out here? Because this is I made a very beautiful brunch, some buttermilk spice muffins. Mimi makes them. They're very good, but I made them. And I made a lot of fruit, real beautiful on the counter, and a big quiche for my family came over. And then I had 3 kids, and they stayed over, and I was so tired last night and gave them baths. And I was like, I want them here. I'm going to do it. I didn't go to sleep till 5, not because of that. I don't know why. I couldn't sleep. Then Sadie came up in bed with me because she was tired, and she don't always come. So she changed. The atmosphere was fun and good, but it was like, so I slept like a couple hours, and I'm just like, at first I was like, I was a little frustrated. And Jerry, sorry, you didn't know that. I was just so frustrated. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get all the, trying to cook dinner to all the stuff. All these people are here. More people came. A lot of people came, and I was so happy to do that. And the kids were going wild, and and then I thought, but Jerry's doing stuff for business, and he's trying to make that work. So you know what I'm saying? It shifted my mind that quick. And we got to shift it that quick because, even if like me, it's weird to me. There's some people I can be doing really great with. And then one day, well, and it was kind of our whole team. Sometimes some of you will know some of these people, and I won't say their names. But one time, someone left. We love this person. We love them. They loved us. We got along really well with them, and nobody can get a hold of them. What do you think happened there? Because I don't really know. But there's some offenses. There's something that happened, and my point is this: we have to be able to talk about things. But how about instead? This changed my life, honestly. When before, because for Eddie, for me, he's someone in my life. It's easy for me never to bring offense with Eddie because there's nothing Eddie does. You're a man without guile, Eddie, is what God's always said. He really is a man without guile. So but I'm saying someone else, like I don't. There's none of you here that I feel this with, but there's some people. If they walk away, you might feel like, oh, they're mad or this or that or whatever. But I always started to say they wouldn't want to do something to hurt me. They wouldn't feel that way, and so I would pray that way, and I wouldn't get offended. So there's certain strategies that God will help us with, but if they are, then we can still try and talk about it. Sometimes people don't want to talk about things because they feel like it has to be drama. I used to be that. I mean, I'm in your face. I was just a fighter in every way. Nobody thinks that, and I think thank you. I've grown some. Like my little Charlie, it's Chloe's little girl. She just like she bit somebody's thing today. She just wants her own thing, and my sister's like, "That's just the way you used to be." She goes, "Everyone thinks you're so sweet," and she goes, "Back then you weren't though." So it was a good compliment, I guess. I was like, but I guess I didn't even know I was that snarky. But that the girls are like sassy, like I guess I used to be, but and so people don't really feel that. And I'm not a person that lives perfect, but I want to live a life with no hypocrisy. Like even if you make me hurt or upset, I don't want to sit there and then gossip about that. That's a big deal, right? Because how many times I was thinking, if I can say something, we have to talk through some things sometimes, right? There's some issues sometimes we have to talk through. But me and Jerry sometimes won't even talk about something. There's things we don't even know about people we talked with and counsel because it might hurt their feelings. They're a woman who might not want some of their stuff done. And I want to be that person. I want to be, because when you are that way, there's some character built up that, hey, we can tell somebody this. But there are some things that man can get twisted so bad, and things you never said, because the devil is always working hard. So all I'm saying is, you know how many times I've probably said this over the years? If there's something going on or you ever wonder, can you just ask? And then people leave and they never ask. I guess it's just hard, I guess, right? It's a hard thing. So I don't know. I just feel like God really wants me to hone in on this about love and take out the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. Is that first or second? It's first. Good job. 1 Corinthians 13. And just open that up. It's not about condemning yourself. It's just about we weigh ourselves against the word. And you know what I've noticed? In every, I'm not talking about there's not big issues and big fights. I get it. There's some hard things. I totally understand that. But always, we're not obeying the word somewhere. We're not always, when me and Jer are not really been in those places in such a long time. It's awesome. But there has been those times, but we're just numb and we're not talking. That's not okay. And it's not okay to be crazy fighting. But there's a balance with it on how to work some things out. And I'm not sitting there saying we're perfect at it, but because there's times that I was numb and didn't care, and I didn't talk about it because I was like, I'm looking for an exit strategy. How am I able to get out of this? I'm a minister and I'm a preacher, and I'm never going to stop that. And one time even Jerry said, that's going to look good. A pastor that's divorced. And I'm like, that's true. What the heck? I mean, these are stupid things we say to each other. But, and that's been a while ago, right? I was like, I know these fights. And it's funny when we were talking to a few people, really only one person probably in our whole life, it's Eddie and Teresa. They saw crazy stuff. And so I was just like, because it was like I never got to say what I wanted. And when I did, it came out like a fire. And I was just like, this is what's wrong with not communicating. It's not okay. We have to, you need it in each other. We need it because there's people sometimes things that you don't even know. I mean, I'm sorry, you just hear things in passing all the time. This person said this person feels this. And I'm going, let me talk to them or let them talk to me. I really try. I'm not perfect. I'm trying though, right? And then I'm going, why did they never talk to me? Why didn't they say, and what are they even upset about? And you don't always know. It's hard. It is hard sometimes to live this life as a child of God, as a Christian, as a pastor, and as you guys. But God has called us to do that, to live no offense, to live full of love. And I can guarantee you, if I'm fighting, I'm not in love, right? Again, I'm not saying we don't check, and I'm not saying that we don't come back and try to figure some things out, and that sometimes we don't have fights or arguments. But overall, if I'm not in these things of love, or if I'm really fighting, I'm not coming into that or looking at it. So, what are you going to mirror yourself after? Are you going to mirror yourself after the word? Are you going to mirror yourself after the word or after your flesh? Because your flesh is always wants to be right. It's proud. It's rude. You're wrong and I'm right. And then the other person, you're wrong and I'm right. And then who wins? The devil, the flesh, right? And so what we have to do is humble ourselves and say, I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. And that's so hard. It is hard, right? And so a lot of times, like, there's some things, not many people out of many, many years of counseling. I would get people counseling them when I was never married. I don't even know why. But I taught marriage classes when I wasn't married. So, man, talk about that was important to me. I was like, God, I would just study those scriptures and what does it say? Because I'm like, hey, I'm not married, but this is what the word says. And then I want to live up to this. How can we do this, right? And then I realized we all failed. We all have failed, and Jerry's offended walking out of the church. I'm just kidding. But no, we all fail, right? And that we mess up. But we have to get back and say again, let's humble, let's pray. Do you know what? It's weird. I'm just saying, sometimes more in the ministry, they say some pastors spend less time in the word than the congregants. You know why? Because you're so busy. And that's a mess. That's not okay. And so if we don't spend enough time with God, I don't, that's not Jerry for sure. And I'm saying mine is a lot on the go. But I think God said pray without ceasing, so we can do that. But at the same time, if we're in this life as pastors, our intimacy matters for this whole church. or lack of intimacy affects this whole church. And your love and intimacy with your spouse and with each other, it will, because it affects each other, right? And then and how we are with each other and how we are, it affects every single thing you do. And God don't care about ministry if you don't have your character right. He wants you to do things, and we do it not perfect. But at the same time, he's always looking at our character. He's always looking at, um, are you trying? Are you trying? God will never cast out a wounded saint or a struggling saint saying, God, I'm messing up, but I need help. Help me, God, help me. He's always going to help that. But we can't be a people that one day are all these big ministers, even if we never get big, that we just are folded because we're not, me and Jer are not living right. Or we're, because then the whole congregation, if it's not walking in love and kindness and goodness and mercy. Because I've been talking so much other people too, not just in this church, about mercy. And I'm like going, why is this a big thing? Because they're like, well, they did this, they did that, they did that. And everything's the law and everything's religion. And this is one thing I'm really working on. I've been praying on, thinking on, and it's something of my whole life that I think it's one of my top things is, of course, grace, prophetic and grace, but is the law of grace or the law of liberty. And that's something I feel like was going to do this tonight, but I'm gonna do it another time because there's more stuff I'm gonna have a lot of illustrations and stuff I want to do with it, um, because it's something that I think there's some people that I really I want to work with anyone, and I love people, but like some people come in this church and they just are mean and nasty and they are hard on people, and you do this and you act like this, and I'm going, wait, that's not the law of grace. And I mean, I used to be that. I know that person. That's religion. That's the law. And God never took away the law. He said he didn't come to abolish it. He came to fulfill it. So we have something higher to live for. We already know that. We could probably talk about that another time. But it's something about how we want to come in and live our life every day, full of the joy of the Lord, full of like, I believe for you. I hope for you. I care for you. And we know many pastors don't love their congregants. They are not happy. They're making money. That's sad, right? And there's some charlatans, right? What else is hirelings, charlatans? And God would say he's taking those people out. I was at a church one time, and the minister's very anointed. And I said, God, I'm tired of kind of being treated really poorly here, horrible. And I'm going, I would always think God would be like, you're a baby, just keep, he didn't talk to me like that, but like, get over it, go on, whatever. And I looked down at the Bible and it says, this kingdom I will give to someone else. And that happened within about 5 years. But I looked over down because someone tapped my shoulder, and I looked around, no one was there. And I saw the hand of Jesus, and his robe was just swooping down. And I was just like, it was so powerful to me because I thought, God even cares, like that I'm here kind of suffering under some ministries, and most of them have been really hard. And so I thought, God sees and he knows, but he cares about his people. He cares about the sheep, and we want to be caring. We want to be full of love, and we want to be not full of hypocrisy, not about being about money, not being about just even the amount of people. We care about the people because you want more people saved, you want more people healed, you want more people, but God cares about, is it so we can get big, or we can have people, oh, look at how great they are. That's hard in the ministry. As much as you think I don't want competition, but I'm saying it's hard with competition. But I feel it sometimes too, that pull, like, something's going on, we're not doing it enough, whatever. And then I think, I got to have a right heart. I have a good heart. I have to do this unto the Lord. I got to serve whoever comes, and whoever doesn't come, love them anyway. And bless those who are coming. And let's get the word of the Lord. Let's ask God for fire to rain down on us, for his word and for his power and his grace and his love, because we can't live this life just full of our own self and full of flesh, full of hypocrisy, being full of him so much that we are truly burning and on fire for God. And people are going, we've seen so many great things. And then I go back, what was going on in time? We've seen so much more fire and more breakthroughs and deliverances. It was the fire. It was just the hunger of God. It was just hunger. And there's times I don't feel that hunger, and I've repented for that. And there's times it's like God is saying, you can't get there until you take care of this. Because I care more about your life with your spouse. I care more about your love with each other. I care more about love than I care about you being, not about being big or famous, but just casting out demons and all that. He called us to do that. We need to do that. We need to see healings because that's what he told us that we need to do. But there's a lot of things that break down on what's not happening and why it's not happening in a church. And I'm not blaming it on anyone here. I'm not blaming it on any of you. I will look at myself and I will look at us. And I will not, I'm going to put my feet down and say, we got to get things right. We got to make sure we're not in a maintenance church. We got to make sure we're getting people where they got to be. And that's been hard sometimes too, because we want to believe in someone and they're here for 2 months and then they're gone. It's a hard day in some of the churches and a lot of the church. Every small church we know it's rough, but you know what? We're not going to take rough. We're going to take love. We're going to take doing his will, keep going, pressing in, like the things you guys are doing more things downtown. Where even more people, I feel like more and more people want to be a part of big things downtown, and the little things we do around here. If those are the good works, Jerry has a whole list of those things that we're going to do. There's a lot though. So let's just all pray for grace for whatever God wants us to do. Rest is in his work, but there are times we're overworked and we need to chill out. But one thing me and Jerry never understood, and maybe because we're pastors, but we've even done this before we were pastors though, is you go on vacation and you don't really have time with God or even go to church. I mean, it's not about going into a building, but a lot of times I'm taking rest. So you need rest from God? No, because God gives you rest. But at the same time, we're just like, we want to stay in that place with God where we're just flowing with him. And we want this to be a place where people can really get filled, really get full of God. So we just got to stay full and let it pour out of us, right? Because not like I never seen an orange tree going, or an apple. We see a lot of trees going, they trying to grunt out their apple. It just, they get the ground, right? They soil the ground, soil it. What do you call it? Plow it up, plow up the grounds, right? But when the tree's already there, they got to just make sure it's healthy, get enough rain, another sun, and just comes out. And so instead of us trying to get people to do what we think they should do or whatever, we produce, we are fruitful, and then other people that will happen in their life, right? So we gotta, because most of y'all are in the team and, serving here. So let's just ask God tonight as we're closing, for us to flow in his love, right? Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, that you'll help us, Lord. We are asking, we are humbling ourselves before you, that we be a place, God, that you can trust us, that we'll be a people in a place that you can flow through us. God, we're not just asking you to use us because you're not a user or abuser, but you want to flow with and through us. And God, we just open our hands. If you just do that, open your hands and your minds and your heart and saying, God, just flow in my life. Fill me to overflowing. I thank you for your presence and your goodness. God, just that oil that I'm even feeling right now, I pray, God, it will just be poured out on everyone right now. Just that liquid love, God, that everyone will feel that closeness, that warmth of you, God. And every single day, God, that we will get up and we'll fight the devil, put him in his place, put our mind in the right order. In every part of our life, we just thank you for your help and your guidance. God, we give you this church, it's yours. And we just thank you, do what you want. Do what you want. We surrender. And we all just say it. We surrender this church to you. We surrender ourselves to you. Whatever, however you want, God, we are yours. We're yielding.